It is barely past 5 in the morning, and I am already out past the barn, walking a fence line through grass that comes up past my knees and soaks my trousers to the skin with the dew. I do this most mornings from May clear through September, mending wire, bringing the cows up, walking the same lane the children walk to the neighbors. The grass is full of ticks this time of year. I can find them whenever I go looking, sitting up on the very tips of the stems with their front legs held out into the air, waiting. And in 65 summers of walking straight through the middle of it, I have never once come inside and pulled a tick off my own skin. Not because we are lucky, because of a handful of plain habits any family can keep, and one I will save for last that the English almost always skip. Now think about your own summer for a minute. You come in off a walk in the woods, or you let the children run through the long grass at the edge of the yard, and that night, getting ready for bed, you find one, latched on behind a knee or down at the belt line, swollen and dug in, and you have no idea how long it has been there. Then comes the dread of it, the watching of that spot for weeks. Maybe a trip to the doctor over the sickness a bite can carry. I am not going to sit here and talk to you about doctoring. I will leave that to the doctors where it belongs. What I can give you is the part that comes before all of that. How a whole family can move through tick country all season long and bring none of them home. It takes no harsh chemical you would be afraid to put on a child, and it costs you next to nothing. My name is Amos Stoltzfus. I have farmed the same ground in Lancaster County the whole of my life, and there is no avoiding ticks out here. We work in the grass and the brush every day of the warm months with no bug man coming round and no can of store spray kept under the sink. So when I tell you that you can keep them off, I am not reading it off a page somewhere. I have lived it day in and day out, and so did my father before me and his father before him. Stay with me, because two things here matter more than all the rest put together. There is one habit, done at one particular moment of the day, that catches a tick before it can ever bite you. And most folks have never once been taught to do it. And there is one thing the English buy by the bottle, year after year, that they do not even need. I will get to both before we are through. Here is the plain truth of how all this slipped away, and there is no villain hiding in it. It simply got easier to forget. The English reached for a spray can, and when something went wrong, they reached for the doctor. And once the can and the doctor did all the worrying for them, the old evening habits quit getting handed down. Nobody sat the children at the table anymore and taught them how to walk a path the right way, or to look themselves over before they came in to eat. And there has never been much money in teaching a man to need nothing. No one can sell you the habit of checking your own skin at the end of a day. So it went quiet, a little more of it lost with each passing generation, until folks came to believe a tick is just bad luck you cannot do a thing about. That is not so, and it never was. So let me hand it back to you, plain and in order, starting with where these ticks actually are, because most folks have it wrong from the start. A tick does not drop down on you out of a tree. It cannot jump, and it cannot fly. What it does is climb up a stem of tall grass or a low piece of brush, take hold with its back legs, and reach its front legs out into the open air, waiting on a warm body to brush past so it can grab on and ride. And they wait thickest right along the edges, where the mown yard runs into the tall grass, where the lane runs along the woods, where the brush crowds up against the fence line. Knowing that one thing changes the whole way you walk. Keep yourself to the center of a mown path so your legs never once touch the grass tips on either side, and most every tick out there never gets the chance to reach you at all. We walk our lane straight down the middle for this very reason, and we keep them mown good and wide on both sides. The first habit is so small that folks laugh at it right up until the day they try it. Tuck your trouser legs down into your socks and tuck your shirt tail down into your trousers. A tick almost always takes hold of you down low, at the boot or the ankle, and from there it climbs upward, hunting for a patch of open skin. When your trousers are tucked into your socks, that climbing tick is left walking along the outside of the cloth with no way in, and it stays out there in plain sight, where you can see it and flick it off long before it ever finds you. Then wear light-colored clothes into the grass whenever you can manage it. A tick is dark and small as a seed, and against pale cloth it shows up plain, as day at a glance, where on dark trousers that very same tick could ride all the way home without you ever seeing it. My grandfather walked his whole life with his trousers tucked down into his boots, and I never once thought to ask him why until I was a grown man. It was simply how a body dressed to go out into the grass. Second, there is one thing you can put on your own skin that truly turns a tick back, and it comes straight off a tree. It is the oil of the lemon eucalyptus. The disease center the government keeps down in Atlanta will tell you it is the one plant-made repellent that holds up about as well as the harsh man-made ones. At roughly a third strength, it gives you a few hours of cover, and against the deer tick, the little one that causes the most trouble of all, a good dose can keep them off you for close to 5 hours at a stretch. One word of care on it: it is not meant for the little ones under 3 years old, so on the babies we keep instead to the tucked cloth and the careful checking. Now I will be honest with you in a way the English internet never is. It wears off. You sweat it away, the hours run out, and it quits working. So you put it on again before you head back out into the grass. It is a real help, but it is not a wall, and any man who tells you one wipe of anything lasts the whole day long is trying to sell you something. Now, here is the thing the English buy by the bottle that I told you they do not even need. There is a chemical called permethrin that they spray onto their clothes, and I will tell you straight, because honesty is the whole of what I am offering you. It works. A tick that crawls across cloth treated with the stuff grows addled and drops right off of it. It is real, and I will not pretend otherwise to make our way sound better than it is. But it is a made chemical, and it is not our way, and the plain truth is that you can get most of that same protection with a pair of tucked-in socks, a dab of the lemon eucalyptus oil, and your own 2 eyes at the end of the day. We have kept ticks off this family for generations without ever once opening such a bottle. If the English care to spray their clothes, that is their own business. I am here to show you the way that costs almost nothing and asks nothing of you but a little attention. Third, take a hard look at your own yard, because a tick needs one thing above all to live close to your house, and that is cool, damp shade. Take the shade and the damp away from it, and the tick cannot hold on near you. So keep your grass mown short, especially out near the edges and along the fence. Short grass sits open in the sun and dries right out through the day, and a tick caught out in dry, sunny turf does not last long at all. Then rake out the leaf litter, that wet mat of old fallen leaves under the trees and banked up against the foundation of the house, because that is the very place ticks hide to wait out the heat of the day and to live through the cold of the winter. We keep the dooryard close-cropped and raked clean, the way our people always have, and the ticks keep to the far brush where they belong. It is the plainest yard work there is, costs you nothing but the doing of it, and it does more good than any spray you could ever buy in a store. Fourth, and this one tends to surprise folks, draw a dry line right between where your family plays and where the ticks live. Those same folks down in Atlanta say to lay a strip about 3 feet wide of wood chips or gravel between your mown lawn and the woods or the tall grass beyond it. It works for a simple reason. A tick will not willingly cross that hot, dry band because there is no damp anywhere in it to keep the creature from drying out. So it turns back at the edge rather than march across the open into your yard. We have always kept a worn dirt path and a line of stone between the mown ground and the wild edge without ever once thinking of it as a tick fence, but that is just exactly what it turns out to be. 3 feet of chips or gravel laid down a single time, and you have drawn a line that most of them simply will not step across. Now let me stop and tell you plainly where the internet oversells my own people, because you deserve the truth far more than you deserve a tidy little answer. Folks love to say that the Amish keep guinea fowl and chickens that gobble up every last tick on the place, and that if you would only get yourself a few birds, your tick troubles are over and done. Well, it is partly so and partly not so. Our hens and our guineas do walk the yard all the day long, picking at the bugs, and they do eat a fair number of the grown ticks. But the young ones, the tiny ticks no bigger than a poppy seed, which happen to be the very ones that do the most biting on people, those the birds hardly touch at all. So keep the fowl if it suits you. They earn their feed and they help a little around the edges. But do not go hanging your family's safety on them. The birds are a help, not the fence itself. Fifth, mind the animals, because a tick does not always walk in on its own 6 legs. More often than not, it rides in on something. The dog runs the fence line and the tall grass all the day long, then comes inside and lies down right beside the children, and the tick rides in on his coat and walks itself off onto a warm little lap. The barn cat will do the very same. So run your hands all through the dog's coat of an evening, down behind the ears and up under the legs and along the soft of the belly, where the ticks most like to latch on, and pull off whatever you find before ever he comes in the door. A short-haired dog you can go over in a minute or two. We have always checked over the animals at the end of the day, the same as we check the people, because a clean-checked man does the baby no good at all if the dog carries them right past him to the floor where she is playing. And here, last of all, is the habit I promised you at the start, the one done at the right moment that the English almost always skip, and the single most important thing in all of this. At the end of the day, before you so much as sit down to your supper, look yourself over. A tick does not bite you the very moment it lands. It walks about on you a good long while, an hour or more, hunting for a soft, warm, hidden place before it ever settles in to dig. That hour of walking is your chance, and it is a generous one. Check the warm, hidden spots where they always make for, behind the knees, around the belt and the waist, up under the arms, behind the ears, down in the hair, all the soft folds. Check the children over the same way at the wash basin. My wife Esther goes over every one of the little ones, head to toe, every single evening of the summer, and has for 40 years. And wash up soon after you come in from the grass. A good wash will carry off any tick still wandering before it can settle anywhere on you. Catch it walking, and it never gets to bite. This one habit, done faithfully every evening, is the wall that all the rest of it only leans against. For the folks who want the whole of it written down, every habit set out in order, how to judge the dose of the oil for grown folks, and what to use on the babies instead, exactly how to lay that gravel line for your own yard, and the right way to check a child over head to toe in under a minute. I have put all of it into the Tick-Free Yard Guide, and the link to it sits right below this video. It is there if you would like the long version in your own hands to work from through the season. That is the only time I will mention it. Now back to the work. Step back a minute and look at what all of this comes to in the end. The English spend the whole of their summer afraid of the grass, spraying their skin, spraying their yards, fretting over every freckle and spot. And they still find one dug in behind a knee come bedtime anyhow. We do the very opposite. We let a few plain habits do the work for us, and we walk straight through the tall grass all season long without a second thought to it. It kept the ticks off my grandfather out in his fields, off my own children when they were small enough to run wild, and off my grandchildren now, who run that same long grass down to the neighbor's place every single day of the summer. So here is what I would have you do this week, and I have kept it simple. Walk the center of your mown paths and keep them cut good and wide. Tuck your trousers down into your socks and wear light colors out into the grass. Keep a bottle of the lemon eucalyptus oil by the door and use it before you go. Mow short, rake the old leaves out, and lay a band of chips or gravel between your yard and the wild edge of it. Check over the animals of an evening. And above all else, look yourself and your children over every single night before bed. Not one of those things cost much, and taken together, they will carry your whole family clear through the season. Now, I would like to hear from you. Tell me down in the comments where you live and how bad the ticks run in your part of the country, and which one of these you had never once been taught before today. I read them, every single one, and I will tell you straight which of these habits matter the most where you are, because in some places the ticks are far worse than in others, and you ought to know it. And before you go, keeping a tick off your own skin is one matter, but the mice that carry these very ticks straight up to your house and into the walls is another matter altogether, and we have kept them out for as long as anyone can remember, without a drop of poison anywhere near where the children are. Next time I will show you how we keep a house clear of mice the plain old way, and I think it will surprise you how simple the whole of it is. Until then, tuck your trousers into your socks and look yourself over before you sit down tonight. The grass was here long before any of us were. We only ever learned how to walk through it,